Hello and welcome back. It has been too long, honestly, since I've done a let's eat with me or let's eat episode, and today we're gonna have pho together. You know, it's kind of crazy. Okay, so like this is basically, if you have never watched one of my let's eat videos, I kind of just eat something from either a really cool place I can tell you about or something I really enjoy, and then we just discuss whatever random things pop into my head as I'm eating. So it's like we're sharing a meal together. And that's what's so exciting. It's like community. What's even more cool is like, okay, so obviously I do these episodes at home and I need tea because it's finally cool enough to have tea. And my favorite hot tea is jasmine, and there's just something about like a hot cup of jasmine tea. Yes. Crazy part though is it gets cool so fast. That water was boiling like less than, okay, never mind. I got ready in between the time. So it's already like not boiling anymore. But my favorite pho, which is where I was kind of going into that story, is tofu pho. I do eat meat, so I think some people automatically think that when I say my favorite version of pho is tofu. I do eat meat. I'm just kind of like picky about it, and I really like tofu, so you know, why would I not? And I love veggies. But my favorite type of food as a whole is just all the different categories of Asian food. I don't know if I mentioned that before, but just in case. But I had never had pho. Obviously I've heard about it for a really long time, like years, since it started going, like, I don't know, when did pho start becoming like well more widely known? Like people were just like, oh, pho. It's kind of like, that was pre-ramen. It was like pho craze happened X amount of years ago, and then ramen craze happened after that. But I had never had it up until like 2 years ago, which is kind of wild to me. But now I look forward to, especially during the colder months, but you and I both know I can eat soup during the summer and I can have cold things during the winter, so I don't really care. It's just whatever sounds good to me, honestly. I'm so excited. It's just so good. And what's nice is normally like the portions are so big, especially if I ever get it to go, I kind of split it into like 2 meals because I get full kind of quick. Oh, and it's like spicy too, because I super doctor up my broth. Like traditionally, if you go to like a pho place, there's gonna be a bunch of different like sauces and like chilies almost that you can put on there. I put almost everything extra in my broth. I put the hoisin sauce. I put the chili garlic sauce, which I think is sambal. I could be wrong. And then I put the sriracha. And my favorite part is a lot of Asian places make their own homemade chili oil. Get that. It's so good. Especially my favorite place. They make theirs homemade too, and I've tried getting them to sell me some. Like I will pay. Can you ring me up for a side of something else, and then I'll pay for that, and I'll just fill a container with this chili oil. They won't yet, but don't worry. One day I'll break them down. They'll sell it. It'll be fine. It's so good. I would use chopsticks, which will lead me to a new story, but I'm just fearful. Oh wow, we already have some on my sweater. Okay. I have to go into the tie pin after this video. But I feel like I make more of a mess with like splatters if I'm using chopsticks, so that's hence the fork. Speaking of chopsticks, my whole life, everybody around me always knew how to use chopsticks. My little brother, there's like a decent age gap, and he could use chopsticks at a small age. I don't know what was wrong with me, but I could not. My best friend in high school was Korean. She tried so many times to teach me. I don't know what it was. It was just like my hand-eye coordination for that, for some strange reason, did not want to participate. Up until, let's see, maybe 3 years ago, which is crazy. But until that point, I had to use a fork, and it was almost embarrassing. When I would go to like super hole in the wall Asian places, obviously like, I'm there and I love the food, and I felt so embarrassed having to ask for a fork because I could not eat anything if all they had were chopsticks, and it was really sad. I actually remember so many times, mind you, this is not authentic by any means, but obviously it's just a fun environment. Benihana's, they would make chopsticks for like the little kids and basically roll up like an empty straw wrapper into a tiny little like cylinder, if you will, and put it between the two chopsticks and a rubber band around it so it has some spring back to it. You can go like this and it would automatically like hold itself together and come back. I would ask for that as an adult because I couldn't use them and I really wanted to participate in the chopstick activities. There's no shame, like honestly, no, you know, if you need baby chopsticks until you get ready. I even had like chopstick, what are they, like chopstick bumpers? It was like this little rubberized cute little animal you could stick on the end of two chopsticks, and I even had those in my purse for a while. Like I was determined, I really wanted to make it happen. But yeah, 3 years ago, I finally got better. I'm definitely not a pro, but I can eat a meal with chopsticks now, which makes me really proud of myself. So, you know, if you're ever out there struggling with something, don't give up. Even if it's something as simple as chopsticks. Because you can do it, I did it. We can do things. And I know some people probably out there like dying because I'm biting the noodles instead of like slurping them up. I can't do it. I know that's like proper. I can't do it. Like the sound of slurping noodles makes my brain go wild. This is so great. I really like filming these videos. It truly feels like I'm sitting here talking to you guys and we're eating meal together. Even if you're not eating, which you totally should. But, you know, if you're watching this and you're not available to eat at the time, it's like we're vicariously, not vicariously, we're sharing a meal theoretically. So since it's like finally getting cooler here in California, it makes me wonder what the weather's like in other states right now. They get more traditional 4 seasons. So I'm pretty sure other states are probably getting fall foliage at this point. Us, not so much. There's like one tree out of my window that kind of has brownish leaves, but I feel like that's like that year round. It's interesting, like part of the tree is green, part of the tree is brown. I don't know if that means it's not healthy, but it looks cute. That's one thing I really like about like the southern states. It's like it's the most beautiful fall foliage. I remember a couple of times when I went out to New Orleans and certain area in Mississippi, it had the most gorgeous fall foliage. So beautiful. Like I wish we had that here, but obviously the trade-off with like the humidity and you know hurricanes and those types of things, it's probably not the best trade-off for me. It's so great when you get pho in real life, like when you go to the restaurant and you eat it there. It's like a whole vibe. It's such a community experience almost. It's really cool now that I'm thinking about it. I don't think there's any other restaurant experience I've been to where it's like when you go to like a smaller independent owned pho place. Because there's like everybody's just like having conversations and it seems you don't see quite as many people on their phones. There's a lot of like, I don't know, I feel like you go there to just experience, you know, whoever you're there with. And I would like that. I think a lot of times when I go to restaurants now, I'm just looking around and people are just on their phones. Like I were out and about with somebody, we were enjoying a meal together, and they were on their phone the whole time. What is the point? I could eat by myself. I don't need somebody else if that was what I was going to do. I don't get it. Especially on a date, like that part's wild to me. When I look around and it looks like somebody's on a date and they're just both staring at their phones, I'm like, why? I don't know why this popped into my head, but we're gonna roll with it. I'm so curious. Down in the comments below, tell me your funniest restaurant story. Like you were out at a restaurant eating and insert story here happened at the restaurant. Whether it was to you or around you. I have a funny one. We're gonna try and say it in between bites though. I'm like, okay, in my defense, I worked out this morning and this is the first like real meal I've had. So I'm low-key a little starving. Okay, so I'll tell you my funny restaurant story. So I was working at a restaurant and it's like trying to describe this in a way where you can kind of like see it in your mind. Let me put the stick down so I can fully describe this. Okay, let's just say you enter here. The door is here and you go around a tiny little wall and then there's a set of 3 booths. Okay, so the entrance is here, 3 booths are over here. And then there's some booths back this way. So this very first booth right here, opening for your entrance is here. There was a couple that were breaking up. And it wasn't one of those civil breakups. Maybe I've just been very blessed and I've just had those kind, because I've definitely heard stories that were wild and I'm really grateful that I've never experienced those. But this girl was not having it. And why this man thought that taking her to dinner was the best way to do this is very interesting to me. I don't know. I just feel like that makes it uncomfortable. So what, you're gonna either pretend and have like a fake nice meal together, and at the very end you're like, well, I paid the bill and now I have something to tell you, and then you break up with them. Then that's awkward. Or the meal itself is awkward because somebody knows something's gonna go on and you're just sitting there, and then it gets worse, and what if he just wants to like leave and then there's like a bill involved, and I don't know, that just seems like not the smartest choice, but you know, to each own, I suppose. So this man felt that that was the move for him, and she was like, no, she was not having it. And she was like, how, no, we're not doing this, you're not leaving me, I can't, you're not allowed to do this. But she wasn't just trying to be inconspicuous, you know, at the booth. Pretty close by. It's like a family. There's a lot of people in there. It's a weekend, so there's a lot of people in there. And she was full voice. And I'm once again, I'm not a yeller, so I can't understand this thought process at all. It's just a series of interesting choices, one right after the other. And she was just going off. And then this guy at some point is just kind of like sitting there, like mid-bite, like he is still eating. I don't know if that was his way of trying to like be normal. I don't know. But he's like still going in on his food while she's like in his ear like this, like so loud, making a ruckus, and everybody around that whole area. And mind you, on restaurants, on the weekends, it's busy and it's loud. And especially in that restaurant, there was always music playing, so it was kind of loud too. It was low-key a little quiet because everybody was like, what is going on? It was insane. He ended up paying the bill, and I see at that point I had to go to the kitchen, so I don't know if they walked out together, if they walked out separately, if she left before him, I don't know. But just the fact of, it's crazy. And then there was another table. At one point they were like breaking up, and I walked over there to be like, hey, do you need anything? And like he was crying silently, like tears were streaming down this poor man's face, and she was just sitting there. Mind you, they were a lot more, you know, themselves and just trying to keep it low-key, but it was just this poor man was crying, and I felt really bad, and I was like, well, I don't know when the right time to go back over there is right now. Like, why would you do that in public like that? Like, why would you go to a meal together to break somebody's heart? Like, what? Why? You know what? Give this video a thumbs up if you also dance when something is good. It could be breakfast, lunch, dinner, a pastry, a goodie, a coffee, or something you eat or drink, and it's like music to your soul. That is 1,000,000% me. I'm just such a foodie. I just have such appreciation for, you know, the love and time that goes into a good meal. Actually, something I'm also curious about too is like, do you prefer to go to smaller mom and pop restaurants for your food? Like, for if you really want a good quality meal, do you prefer mom and pop restaurants, or do you prefer like traditional chain, you know, BJ, Chili's, Applebee's, like those types of restaurants? Like, what do you go for? I'm definitely more like hole in the wall, especially when it comes to Asian food. Mind you, it can be a blessing and a curse. I mean, definitely look at the ratings, look at the health score. Because food poisoning is no joke. I've only ever had it once, and I would not wish that on anybody. It wasn't from an Asian restaurant. It was in San Diego. For a while there, we'd go on vacation like twice a year. When I was in college, one would always be up to like Santa Barbara area, and then one would be San Diego. I know it was one of the trips. I had never had like a cocktail with dairy involved, and this was pre me becoming lactose intolerant. Mind you, don't get it twisted. I will take a Lactaid and I will still eat things with dairy in it, so let's just not get that twisted at all. But this being said, this was years before I realized that was going on in my body. I think it was a white Russian that I had ordered, and that was that, I guess technically it would have been considered a bar, which really was, it's never really been my vibe, but I think we were just kind of walking around. It looked kind of fun from the outside, so we just walked in. I got one of those. I didn't even finish it because it came in like a martini type glass, so it was like a small amount of liquid. I for sure didn't finish it. I don't think either of us were really feeling the vibe there, so we kind of just like paid our tab and we left within 15 minutes of being there. I kid you not. About like 30 minutes later, I started feeling gross. Like my stomach was kind of turning. Luckily we were within walking distance, because if you've ever been to like the downtown area in San Diego, like it's all super walkable. And we walked home, and I proceeded to spend the entire rest of the evening writhing in pain in the bathroom. I was trying to throw up. That's how much pain I was in. I just wanted some sense of relief. It was like somebody had like taken my insides and were going like this for like 8 hours. And I couldn't throw up. I was, you know, you try to gag yourself, like nothing was working. It was horrendous. And mind you, let's just say that all started happening at like 9 o'clock that night. I was not able to finally, sorry, my camera stopped recording. I feel like I should probably finish this story and then like finish up my food, because I could just sit here yapping forever, and I don't know how long this video is already. But that being said, I was not able to throw up from 9 p.m. that night until like 7 in the morning the next day. So almost 12 hours of me just sitting there in the bathroom, and the worst pain from food poisoning. We left our vacation early, like we were supposed to spend the rest of the day there kind of exploring. We drove home, and I was still sick to my stomach for 2 days after, to the point where like I had pulled a bunch of muscles here because I kept having to like dry heave because there was nothing left in my stomach, and I looked like super duper pale. It was like, I'd say from start to finish, just about 3 days of that. It was horrible, and I would not wish that on anybody. I know all different levels of food poisoning exist. That was a really bad one, and now I'm like terrified. I've only ever had like something similar-ish. Luckily it was just like, you know, like a 12-hour bug type thing, but that I was on it with that one. And I think what was different there too is the first time, I think it was like they didn't rotate the milk for that white Russian, so whatever the heavy cream or whatnot that's in there that's dairy based, I think that was bad, which is why I think it lasted longer, because the only other time I've had something like that happen was I had ordered some form of like a fettuccine alfredo, and I added diced tomatoes onto it because I love tomatoes, and that one gave me food poisoning, and that one sucked. But I think because that one was like vegetable based, actually no, that I'm thinking about, I mean obviously Alfredo has some element of dairy in it, but in my mind I was convinced it was something with the diced tomatoes. So that one only lasted me like 12 hours-ish. I started feeling super sick overnight, and I pretty much was awake almost all night. And then before the sun started coming up, then I started to feel a little bit better. But, you know, after you get food poisoning, you just feel super like weak for, you know, let's just say a day. So it was not a fun experience. So moral of that story, check the health ratings. Pho is like the one thing I actually will drink the broth after, especially if it's like super hot still. I don't really do this in the restaurants, but like when I get it to go, I will drink the broth, because the bowls, when you go get pho in real life, they're gigantic, and the broth is like little dainty hands. I feel like that would just be the most, and knowing me, I would just tempt fate of spilling it all over myself. So we just don't do that at the restaurant, only here at home. It's so good. Okay, well, I'm gonna conclude it here, because as you can tell, I could just come up with story after story after story, and I mean, each meal should only be so long, I guess. Plus, you're gonna save stories for the next episode of Eat With Me. But I truly just love filming these videos. It's so much fun. I hope you enjoyed. Don't forget, you know, tell me your funny restaurant stories down below. I live for that stuff. I think that those stories are hilarious, and there's always something, you know, fun to be said about those. So I shall be seeing you very shortly for my next video. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget, so we can sit here and eat together the next time. And you can see all the other silly adventures, cooking, going out in the world exploring, all the other things together on my next videos. Give this video a thumbs up, and I shall see you very soon.